Welcome, everybody. Let me start with a slightly more cooler introduction. So, Page Up if are our we thank them very much. Without them, we would not be here today running this event. And if you have the opportunity, I highly recommend taking a look at their recruitment marketing platform. I saw it when it was first released a couple of years ago and was blown away with what it can do. And all we're talking about is at the moment is employment brand and recruitment marketing and treating our candidates like any marketing function would. So do go take a look at that. Now, our next speaker needs no introduction to many of us. If you've not met Kelly Stone, you're in for a real treat. Kelly creates charismatic recruitment communications, and I know she's got quite a few projects on the go at the moment where she is helping many companies, many TA teams, write their candidate comms and their communications to their candidates at the moment. So she's all about enhancing the candidate experience and ensuring you get good engagement with your brand. So that engaging voice that she has, she brings to that employment brand to help you bring your brand to life, I should say. So Kelly, if you pop your camera on, you'll be able to join me up on our brilliant stage. So Kelly's actually going to run a workshop with you today. So get ready to work, folks. You are going to learn all about job. So take yourself off mute and I am handing over to you.
Thanks, Andrea. Hi, everyone. Welcome. It's 9 a.m. up here in Queensland, so anyone that's tapping in this early, well done. I am going to try and run a workshop style session with you today, but relying on the chat function that you've already got going. So if you can keep in general chat and not the Q&A, that would be great. And I want it to be like, I would love for you to give me some feedback along the way, because there's a lot actually that I want to cover off, but I'm not going to have the time to cover it all off. So if at any point there is something in particular you want me to cover or to go into more detail on, let me know. That would be great. So I'm just getting my slides up. All right, so I'll start with a bit about me, because I'm sure there are actually quite a lot of you who don't know who the hell I am. I spent most of my, I guess the largest chunk of my career was spent in graduate recruitment and in government especially. And I guess being a young person and having a lively writing voice my whole life, I guess I wanted to bring that to the grad recruitment experience because, as you would all, I'm sure, be aware, some corporate environments can be quite stuffy in the communication. It's really formal, convoluted. It's a bit hard to follow. It's not very easy to engage with. And I guess when I was in this role, I made it a mission of mine to bring that humanness to the way that I communicated with our grads when we were recruiting for our programs. And then it just became a thing that I wanted to do full time. So I started my business and here we all are today. So for today's session, as I said, there are a few things that I want to cover that I probably won't be able to cover in the detail. Just keeping an eye on the chat in case that comes in. So if you could all just kind of pop into the chat, I'd really appreciate it. Is your purpose for today, or what you're hoping to most get from today, is it just some really easy to implement job ad copy tips? Is it how to kind of breathe life into your job posts if you're when you're sharing that opportunity on LinkedIn? Or is it more about brand voice and writing style. So how to communicate your brand in a engaging way when you're communicating with candidates. Oof, Ella's straight in there. Okay. Brand voice, brand voice, brand voice, brand voice, brand voice. Okay. That's awesome, because that's where I love to hang out. So I will, I'll still go through copy tips. I'm going to show you some examples here, the good, the bad, and the ugly of what job ads can look like. And in that, I'll be able to show you or demonstrate how brand can be brought to life in copy. We'll go through the anatomy of a job ad, so there's nothing really new there, but there'll be some tips for each of those sections. My 3Bs of bloody good job ad copy, excuse me. There might be, I should do a sweary warning because sometimes they slip out when I get excited. Creative writing tips, and we'll look at a writing activity at the end. In terms of questions, it's probably best to wait until I initiate, just because I am not a multitasker, and if I see the chat thing going crazy, I'll probably either not see you or lose my place, as I'm doing right now. Okay, let's begin. I want to start with a conversation, if you don't mind. Why is it that job ads are so ineffective? So if you want to pop in some comments, it could be what's already come in there, which is there's no brand engagement. That's one of them. But when you look at it, like, job ads are supposed to sell. Their purpose is to attract your ideal candidate and also discourage the non-fits. And they're an employer branding opportunity that is so often missed as well because of this whole copy paste. I probably gave one of them away. Yes, Stefan, generic, don't tell a story. Don't speak the candidate's lingo. They're jargony, they all look the same. Don't provide an understanding of the company, copy and paste. Yeah, the same one that's been used for like 50 years. Yes, too many people can select out. That's because there's usually like a 100-point demand list. Reads like a PD, totally. Yeah. And I think Lisa on that as well, her comment, it's hard to convince some hiring managers that a job ad is not a PD. And I even find that language when people are, when experts even, or when people are talking about job ads, generally the job description term always slips in, and it's like, you're not talking about a job description, you're talking about a job ad, which is an advertisement, which is meant to sell. So yeah. Nice. Thinking like a marketing person, not a HR talent. Brilliant. Well, the good news is you've covered off all the ones that I wanted to say. And we will hopefully dive into it, and I'll give you some ideas about how you can shape your own copy. The caveat here is that there are so many different brands, so it's going to be quite general advice, but I will give you some brand examples to show you how that could come, like how a nurturing brand, for example, could show up in voice compared to a more creative or playful brand. So let's start with some examples to help you separate the good from the ugly. I would probably consider this a pretty standard looking job ad, for all of the reasons that you've said before, which is it's too easy for someone to opt out of this. For one, there's no brand story, there's no connection with the employer, with the opportunity, with the role, with the team. It's literally just a whole page of bullet list. And if you were a candidate reading that, you would probably find it disengaging, and you wouldn't be too inspired to really apply. I'm going to give you a few minutes to read this one. should say skim read. So did anyone want to pop in and say how this type of job ad makes them feel in comparison to the other one? Is there anything that's
Hi, everyone. If you could just try turning your camera back on again. And I'm getting someone else saying that it's frozen. Am I frozen, folks? Well, just to fill in here as we can. Oh, there she is.
I'm back.
Off again.
That was my internet. Okay. Sorry. Now, I don't know when it cut out, but I did ask if anyone had any thoughts. Thank you, Sarah. Yeah.
Are people
Yeah, so what I...
Too long? Have you got that there? Right. And there's things, I don't know if I'm helping Kelly.
I didn't know.
I think it actually can you. It talks about
Yes.
problem.
Absolutely. And love the solar chops. Yeah, so you'll find in here it's very human language, and I can't believe I just used very because it's like a writer's worst word in the whole world. But it is a human and conversational. It uses everyday language, which is great. It does give great insight into the employer brand and what it would be like to work there. And so, yes, I feel that this one really sets realistic expectations of what that candidate could expect. So I won't get you to comment on this one. This is very much another example of copy. I like that it's clean copy. So I'll be quiet for a moment so you can just read and absorb. So what I like about this one, again, it's a conversational tone that you'll find in there. It's very easy to read. It's simple language. And what I actually like about it, I've kept the brand in there. Yeah, straight to the point. I kept the brand in there because kind of this language is very well aligned with IKEA as a brand, because they are that simple. It's about flat packs. It's, it's there's no frills. What you see is what you get. And I find that their style of writing in here really matches that. So it's a way to, bring the brand to life on the page. It also sets expectations, I think. Now, just being mindful that I haven't included the whole ad. There were many more dot points and stuff, but it was more just to give you a feel of what the copy could look like. Now, if I could ask that you read this one sort of properly, and we'll have a chat at the end. And whoever finishes first, if you want to drop some comments in, what I'd really like to know is, how does this ad make you feel? Yeah, Andrea wants to write to them and get the job. Rebecca, it's all coming in now. Rebecca's got there empowered and intrigued. So that was, getting rid of cliches. The emotional feeling, Carly doesn't like it. So it's very much a cultural fit, brand fit style job ad that you're looking at. But the feeling that it kind of brings out, to me, it's inspiring, and they're obviously social enterprise, so that's clear in what they're saying, but also in the way that they've written it. And what I mean here, we're talking about sentence structure and word choice, and so it's kind of telling a story, it's telling their story, and it's kind of, I don't know, it's igniting this passion in the people that it resonates with. And again, like, I guess this is the point that while we're here is that your job ad isn't meant to appeal to everyone, but it sure as hell should be appealing to the people that are going to be a fit in your organization. And I really think that this job ad nails that. Like, people are going to read that and they're going to know, like, I will do anything. I will jump through hoops. I'll make a presentation. I'll do whatever they ask. I want this job. I applied for a role a couple of years ago, and it had the same response, that their job ad had the same response for me as I was reading it, and it was so creative and it was so energizing, and it was really empowering as well about what they're doing and what they want from their new hires, I guess. And they had like quite an extensive application process, because they didn't want just anyone applying. They used that application process as a shortlisting tool. And so I created a presentation to send to them about how I would deliver a program and all these other things. And it's like, not everyone is going to see your job ad and want to do that. And if you're trying to get the most out of it, then you want it to compel people to do what you ask, or to connect if they're the right person. Dean thinks it's waffly. No, joking. So of all these examples, I'm going to be carrying on a bit about what's in it for me later. And I realized that I didn't have any examples of an offer. I didn't snap any offer statements. So I just wanted to include this one as an example of what an offer statement could look like, that's a little bit different to you get to work from home and you get your birthday off every year. And just with this one, the statement will empower you to step up, step sideways, and flourish always. That's actually one of the key messages. This is a client. It was one of their key messages and brand differentiators, is that they didn't just offer an upwards career path. Because they're global, and they're a family of brands under the one company. And so someone coming in at a public facing or a service facing role could actually sidestep into, branch manager, or they could get into admin, or they could go to the UK or whatever. So it was really important for them to communicate that it's not just, you don't just have an upwards career directory. You can actually make this, spend your entire career in this one organization, and it would be different every way. So that's just another way of looking at your offer. So here's another fun example, probably just a quick skim. For anyone not in marketing, they're going to be looking at that thinking, what the hell am I reading? I loved this one because this is my realm, and it's super, 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 super creative. And I feel that the brand voice is really strong in there. And for a marketer, it's great. It really sells their brand and their culture and what you can, well, hopefully if it's honest, but what you can expect working in here. And there's a lot of like marketing or copywriting roles where they're not actually that creative, where this does really seem to be See, I'll sound it out. What you see is what you get. So that would be like a WordPress or a Squarespace site where you're creating the page that you're going to see when it is the final result. All right, and then rounding it out with this one, if you could read through all of the dot points, that would be great, and then let me know what you think. Yeah, whoa. So this is actually someone on LinkedIn tagged me into this one. Yeah. So I wanted to include this one because I wanted to talk about humor. So the example that we had before was, I would probably say, quite funny. It was on the funny side or the fun side anyway. This one I see as an example of when humor goes wrong. When I read this, I think hiring manager is a control freak. What I feel when I see this ad is, I thought, oh yeah, it looked like it seemed to start okay, and then down the bottom with if any of the following is true, then we don't want to hear from you. And that's where it really turned, and it came across as immature, try-hardy, and mean. And so I think I just wanted to include this because sometimes people think that what makes great job ad copy is that it's funny or humorous, or what makes any kind of copy awesome is that it's funny and humorous. And it's not always the case if you don't actually have a sense of humor, for one, but if you're not able to pull it off in a way that's going to have a positive impact on your brand and not a negative one. And so in this one, they didn't quite pull it off. I'm thinking, I have faith that they were trying to be funny and they didn't do it right, but possibly not. Okay, so yeah. Did anyone have any questions before I move on to like the anatomy of a job ad and breaking some of this apart with some tips? Type fast.
Louise, who said, what are the thoughts around bullet points over heavy text, given most people view on their mobile device?
Yeah, so I think the thing with bullet points is it's the fact that they're excessive. So if you can keep it to like 5 bullet points per section, then I don't see it as a problem. Like, it's not that bullet points are a bad thing, because they help clearly, they help you get to a point clearly so it stands out on the page. It's when there's no emotional connection, if there's no story, if there's no full sentences and paragraphs that are pulling your candidates in and that are selling your story, and all you're doing is throwing bullet points at them, then they're not going to engage with that. And that's when you're going to get people who are they're going to resonate, like they're a job title match. So I'm a copywriter. I could look at any job title. It's like copywriter in Brisbane. Oh, I'm a copywriter. I can do that. I can do these things. And that's why you get all these people who aren't a brand fit, that are just throwing an application in there because the only thing that resonates is the role title. So bullet points aren't bad if they're used well, because and the point is to draw attention to key points and not the extensive, we want all of these things list. All right, I shall move on. One point actually I've got here in my notes is, so the thing with job ads is I've shown you a variety of different styles and structures, and that is because there's no one size fits all. Like, I feel that the style of job ad or the structure of your job ad should really be marketing your brand. It should be communicating your brand in the way that you do it, and that's why Empire's one. It was pretty much a letter to the candidate, and that had a lot of power because it was it was directly talking to them and it was inspiring them and kind of inviting them to come on this journey, but only if they, you know, if they were a match with the journey, of course. But the other ones, like the more standard structures, are fine as well, and they are easier to read for a candidate short on time. But that's where it's like understanding your brand and understanding your audience, and then creating a job ad that is going to it's going to celebrate your brand, and it's also going to appeal to the people that you want to be applying. All right. One thing you never do on presentation slides is like load it up with information and then bam. But I'm going to talk through some of these with you. So these aren't really in any order. I'm not forecasting an order or anything like that. It's just to give you, just to really draw on what are the key components of a job ad that you see, and what are some simple tips that you can implement that will possibly bring it to life a little bit better. So you should all know, hopefully it still happens, but having a simple and succinct title. So that's no Ninja Warrior Gurus, and no calling it a special project technician when it's really an event coordinator that you're after. The other thing with the title that I kind of touch on in another slide, but consider it, like, try to make it searchable. So if I were to go into Google, I would probably type in like marketing or part-time marketing jobs in Brisbane. And so if you don't have any of that information in the title, then it's like harder to come up naturally in a Google search. USP selling bullet points. So this one is more for the job boards because they tend to have those 3 bullet points at the top that kind of summarize the selling point. And unfortunately, what I see all the time is it's repeating information that's already in either the title or the location. So it would be like Melbourne-based role, copywriter, full-time copywriter, Melbourne-based role, and I don't know, you get a car or something like that. But there's nothing new in that. And I really feel that those bullet points are wasted real estate. So it's have a think about what are your key selling points for this particular role that are going to encourage people to continue reading and reading it properly. In the about space, when you're talking about your company, it does require a compelling summary that people are going to connect with. And this may devastate some of you, but not many people care if you're ASX listed. Now, again, this is where you need to think about who your audience is and who you're connecting with, because I know, like at the executive level, for example, one of their key drivers when they're looking for a new employer is financial stability. And so, like, I guess that can come into play. They may find that more appealing. A graduate probably won't. Or you could communicate it in other ways than just saying that, hey, we're listed in the ASX, amazing. All right, have a think about the role. Now, when you're talking about the role, it's important that Ella's just asked if there's an order, and no, there's not. This is me just randomly throwing things in. I think it will depend on your audience, and it will probably depend on what you're selling as well. So if your brand culture is one of the big selling points, then to me it would make sense that you would kind of lead with that, and then get into the about role and about offer and things like that. Some candidates prefer just tell me what I need to know if I'm going to like it, and then tell me about the company later. I don't really prescribe a set structure other than title, bullet points, and then call to action at the bottom. So I'm sorry that's not a very, okay. All right, so when you're talking about the role, it's important that you're realistic and see it as an opportunity to get creative. Like if you don't want to fill it with more copy, do you have videos that you can either embed if it's on your own career site? I'm not sure of the capability of all of the job boards if they can do that. Or you can include a link and direct them to go and check out it on your YouTube channel. So if there's like a DITLO, like a day in the life of video, which is like a role profile of what they could expect in that role, You could have a team or a manager introduction as well, which is really helpful because people leave managers. So could be a good way to introduce the team into it for them to really connect with, actually, yeah, you know, I could see myself working for this person or working with this team. So it is an opportunity for you to get creative. The other, you could also, if you don't have these videos, you could, but you have an about company video, then hopefully not a cheesy and aspirational kind of one, like an everyday and responsive kind of about video that you could put in there just to give a bit more context and understanding of what they can expect working with you. And then here I do talk about the bullet points because our 1,000 essential skills really essential. So try and keep them concise, try to limit it to, you know, like the 3 to 5 essentials that you really want from this person, and keep the actual bullet point copy concise as well. Don't need to be paragraphs long. About your offer. So this really needs to be the what's in it for me, which is the candidate and not the employer. Sorry. Candidates want to know what like, why should they work for you? What is so good about you? Why are you better than the next job ad that they're going to read in 2 seconds? So it's really important that you can clearly articulate your about, which is to emphasize the benefits that your ideal candidate wants. And so this is where you can have a look. Like, there's resources out there online. Like, I know that that there are candidate motivator reports. Like, some people have, like, the industry specific candidate motivators that you can tap into. If you don't already know that about that, you could survey your new hires or your employees and see what it is that they love about working with you, or better communicate your EVP if you've got that, if you've got a shiny EVP that's been done for you. But it's really, really creating that compelling pitch for the candidate. And then finally, the call to action. So this is where we can have a little bit this is where you can have a little bit of brand personality as well. And I'm not saying be boring and formal and regular and then like pack a punch at the end. But it's just an easy way that you can add some personality. And I know this isn't the apply now button that I'm talking about, but usually a job ad will end with a bit of a summary and, oh, if you're the person that we like or that would like to apply here. Just kind of have fun with it and try and pull your brand voice out and your brand personality out in the way that you call them to action to apply. So I do have some more creative examples, but we're not all creative brands, but just to give you an idea. All right, 3 B's of bloody good job ad copy. So first one being no BS. So that is no jargon, no endless bullet list, and no lies or misdirections. I find that some people feel that they have to only focus on the positives, and they either don't mention or they gloss over the negatives. But it's really important that you're transparent about your employee experience, so that they're not going to be jarred, I guess, when on their first day, when they realize that life isn't as peachy as you promised them. So no BS. Again, benefits. It's essential that you really hone your what's in it for me, so that candidates will feel compelled and want to work for you and apply for you. And then this is where we touch on the brand, not bland. Just trying to get. So I think, yes, I do. So here are some brand voice examples to show you what I mean. Brand, actually, before you get reading, I'm going to go back. Brand can come out on the page in a few ways. It should, your brand voice should always be, it should always be drawn from your values, so corporate values or your employee values. Start there. It needs to be aligned with your mission, your corporate mission, what you're trying to achieve. It should consider your audience and who you're talking to as well. So there's a few things that come into a brand voice, and you draw from that to create human attributes for it. So you kind of make it into a human personality. That's the way that I do it. And I find it's easy for non-writers to consider their brand as a person as well. Because it's easy. Like one of the brand voices I created for a client, I called him Uncle Frank, and I like to use him as an example all the time because everyone, probably an Australian example here, everyone has an Uncle Frank, and that's that real, you know, they always say g'day and hooroo. They're down to earth, they're salt of the earth types, and they speak that real everyday human language, and with that infectious enthusiasm that you love. And so when I gave that personality to them, it was easy for them to think, oh, this is how Uncle Frank would greet someone in an email, or this is how Uncle Frank would respond to a complaint or some trolling on Instagram. So that's kind of one way to look at it without getting too specific with individual brands. However, I have some examples here to show you what I mean. And these are 4 brand archetypes. And the text that I've got there, it's just an example of someone like a recruiter or a TA congratulating someone who was successful at interview. So got wise and nurturing, bold and playful, warm and motivational, and elite and sophisticated, if you just want to have a read through and just see the difference, I guess. Hey, Tamara. So the bold and playful one there, so that's my brand voice. That is something, if I wanted employees, they scare me, but that is the kind of tone that I would probably take on if I were hiring. And so I'll give you some examples actually of brands that these may relate to. So wise and nurturing would probably be like a Google, Wall Street Journal, or like a healthcare kind of brands. The warm and motivational, that was actually with Nike in mind. Not that I'm certain that they wouldn't actually write that, but if you think about a motivational brand, Nike is the first one that comes to mind. But also charities tend to fit into that as well. Bold and playful would be like an M&M's, and again, M&M's aren't going to write this, but that is the kind of brand that would take on a bold and playful tone. And then elite and sophisticated would be like your Mercedes and your Tiffany's of the world. So the language between just like bold and playful, so that's really punchy and it's really energetic. It's short, sharp, and sweet. Elite and sophisticated, the language that's used is a little bit more elegant. You really excelled during the interview. You're a brilliant cut. That's a wordplay on diamonds. Yeah. Thanks, Charlotte. Warm and motivational. So again, that's really going into that. If that's like an athletic or an adventure brand, it's using, again, that's wordplay. We're so pumped that your career goals involve us because in a short amount of time, we're going to kick butt together. And welcome to the team. We're so pleased to be offering you this role because we think you're the sunshine to our summer's day. You may find that corny, but again, this is just an example and of how you can kind of communicate the same messages in different tones, in different voices, sorry. So Jasmine's asking, would you suggest using different one of these for different seniority of candidates? And my approach is that, well, for me, I wouldn't change it because I am my brand. So it's a lot easier for me to say that. I think if you have created a brand and you have a well-known brand and you've articulated this the whole way along, then yes, it's kind of you're staying on brand there, and they know what they're going to expect. Like if they're going to come into, if that's an executive, say, that's coming into a startup environment where everyone on the team has that energy and that enthusiasm and they speak like that, then it's not going to really be a jarring experience for them. I imagine if you're using that brand voice from the beginning, then you're probably going to be attracting executive level people who are going to resonate that. So Laura has said that we expect our execs to align with our brand, otherwise they're not the right fit. We keep our tone of voice consistent across all mediums. Yeah, so I think how I approach brand is you have a personality, which I haven't mentioned this yet, but it needs to be aligned with your consumer brand. You can't have a different employer brand to your consumer brand. So it needs to be aligned in a sense, but your key messages and your tone are going to be different because your audiences are different as well. And so that's how I usually approach it, is you would adjust the tone. So not necessarily the personality, but perhaps you could consider tweaking the tone and the message to suit a different, different levels, or imagine a tradie coming in and versus you're hiring an accountant in the same organization. So, but consistency is key. So I don't recommend chopping and changing. I think keep the brand personality to be the same and consistent across all your communication, and then you have to tweak slightly. Like if you don't want to say to your senior executive, you're an MF rockstar, I would understand. But I'm all for showing up as the one, which some people are doing here too. So, any more questions on that? That was a very long-winded answer. I'm sorry. Yeah, so Bronwyn's comment there, if they change their tone to senior roles and then a senior walked in to see a sign that says make shit happen, then it's that misalignment. So okay, so here are some, I need to speed this along, so I'm gonna go quickly. Some tips here for catchy copy. So know who you are. So that's your brand message, your stories, and your voice. Knowing who you are and how you want candidates to feel. So that's a really important thing as well, is when you're communicating, and that's going back to the Empire job ad copy, is the feeling that came out of that was we want them to read this and feel inspired and empowered and, jumping at the bit to come and work for us. So what does that look like for your brand? Know who you talk to. So nail the candidate avatars to target your ideals and discourage those who don't fit. And that's how you can really nail the language as well, and talk in a language that is going to appeal to that generation. It's probably generation or technical as well, could be major differences. Writing search-friendly copy, because 69% of job seekers use Google search. And writing in the second person point of view, and I've got some examples there. So second person point of view is the you, the where, the there. That's kind of, it's more inclusive, it's friendly and warm and engaging. Whereas if you use the company name, like I see that all the time, people, they see it as an opportunity to promote the company. So it's like Acme call this, blah, 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 blah. And third person is quite jarring and it disconnects you from your audience when you write that way. So just be mindful of that. I got a whole heap of notes here that I feel like I'm rushing through. All right, and then we've also got ditch the use. Oh, this is my favorite, guys. Can you pay attention to this one? Ditch the useful adjectives, cliches, and jargon. And that is no more fantastic, amazing, or exciting from now on, please. And I've got a whole bunch of exclamation marks there, so please see that as an invitation to reduce the exclamation marks you use in your job ads too. It's probably more a recruiter agency thing, I think, than in the way that internals write, but no more unicorns. So there's the examples of jargon. So or cliches really, but it's like, this is a window of opportunity, or let's take it, are you ready to take it to the next level? Like they're cliches. And The problem with cliches is they start losing meaning. So it's just a saying that's been used so many times that it has no meaning. And if it has no meaning, then what's the point of including it in the first place? So that is how if you take a cliche and it's like, okay, well, how would we say that? How would our brand say it? Or what does this actually mean when we say it? It's so funny. I was like, I'm just watching the chat there and I was like, Laura, I usually explain the exclamation mark is like the same as when your dad sends you a text message all in caps and you're just like, anywho. All right. Loosen your lingo, which is use contractions, please. That's something that you can probably all do to take on a conversational tone. It's an easy win. So instead of we are, it's where, or they are, it's there. Or if you have a really bold brand, instead of saying must have, you could go full quirky and say must have. It really depends on your brand, but contractions, generally speaking, it's how we speak in person, and we don't catch up with our friends over coffee and speak formally and pad these sentences out with all these extra words that don't need to be there. We're quite lazy in the verbal, and so I give you permission to write that way. Consider starting your sentences with but and or because, or things like that. And when you do that, you're it's really creating a conversation, and it's more about the flow and the energy flow, and you're keeping them hooked in. Use plain English. An example is use, not utilize. That's a very basic example. And short sentences which are less than 25 words, not if possible. Aim for under 25 words, chop it up, make them shorter, make some short, make some medium, make some max at 25, but don't be doing these long-winded things. Writing in an active voice. Too much job ad copy is passive. So I've got some examples of what it looks like to go from passive to active. Instead of saying be inspired by a role, you will be inspired. You will do this. This is an opportunity to build your marketing career. Just say build your marketing career. And ing words are try to cut them out and just use the base word, the stem will work. So I did have a writing activity that we're not going to have time to do, but I wanted to kind of end here because for a lot of people that I work with, a lot of people that I interact with, what they say to me is that they say, I'm not a writer, I can't write. And all I want to say to that is that you just haven't been taught to write well. And so instead of saying I'm a writer, because that can be crushing, it can kind of restrict us. We get into this mindset. We don't want to do it. We don't enjoy it because we think we're not good at it. Maybe consider reframing that I haven't been taught how to write effectively, which then means that it is a skill that, much like running and swimming, can be learned the more that it is practiced. So on that note, if you do feel a little bit crippled by writing, then I challenge you to start a daily journal habit. And that can be about anything. You can talk about your commute into the city now that most of us are free again. Whatever it is, just take it from here and into your book. And the reason that is useful is because it's unfiltered, it's unedited, no one's critiquing it, no one's seeing it, you're not coming back and perfecting it and making it sound better. And it's just the more that you're able to do that and get comfortable with your own writing voice, then the easier it is going to be for you, and the more of a joy it will be for you as you write more. I am totally out of time. I'm so sorry, guys. Oh, yeah. Well, this was job post, but you didn't really care about that. So the activity I would love to task, which can't be done now, but if you can take it with you and maybe have a go at it, is writing the out offer pitch for your organization. So pick the discipline, whatever the role is that you want. I'm saying here you're pitching to recent graduates, so that will help you articulate the offer and what's going to be most meaningful for a recent graduate. And aim for like one paragraph, a couple of sentences, or two if you've got a really cracking offer going on. But the reason I say recent grads as well is because it will hopefully encourage you to write, just loosen your writing a little bit and write in a more youthful and engaging way, and kind of ditch that corporate jargony thing that we normally do.
Kelly.
She's come in to drag me off with a hook.
Kelly, well, we're actually going to a roundtable discussion now. So perhaps, folks, that what Kelly's asked you to do there, perhaps you could talk about it on the round table. So how would you pitch the offer to your organisation based on what you've learned from Kelly today? Talk about sort of what your brand voice might be and some of the things that you're going to change. Kelly, if you can, when we go back to the tables, just put up in chat what table you're sitting at, what table number, and if anyone's got any questions, they can come and have a chat to you. Folks, if you are sitting on your own, hover over one of the tables where there's lots of people, and if there's a little black spare chair, double click on that, hover over it, double click, and join a table where there's lots of chat going on. Fantastic session, Kelly. Next year, I've promised a few Brisbane folks. At one of our first events, I'm flying up to Brisbane to run our first in-person event, because Brisbane folks have the best engagement at our events, and I think we will do something with you there. Just saying. All right, folks, I'm going to turn the presentation off now, and we will go to a round